Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this one we have quite an unusual situation. Someone decided to pick Caitlyn top with first strike. Yeah, you heard that right, Caitlyn top. This video isn't about specific builds or item choices, but rather how to handle those ranged top lane matchup abusers who think they can get away with it. So, sit back, enjoy. If you've been playing League of Legends for a while, you'll remember the old days of Shaco or Twitch jungle when people used to do just one camp and immediately go for a gank. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in this game. The goal? Make sure this enemy top laner regrets their next 30 minutes of gameplay. Yes, it's unconventional, and yes, it might cost us the game, but when someone decides, with audacity I might add, to pick Caitlyn top with first strike, it's no longer about the optimal play. Normally, all the experts and stats will tell you to full clear then gank, but not today. As usual, whenever I gank bot side, it's a disaster. For 2 months now, they never react properly. They just wait until I walk onto the ward, and it's too late. They should start the fight before I arrive to burn summoner spells or leave the enemy low on health. Instead, I die, we get no kills, and my bot lane dies right after. I'm not sure who thought this was a good idea. Maybe some high ELO player used it to counter a broken champion, but I guarantee that champion is not Jax, and that high ELO player has never faced me. This Caitlyn will soon learn that top lane is not her playground. Maybe in mid, it's tolerable. Maybe as support, it's reportable. But in top lane, that's straight up abuse, and I won't let that slide. Here, I'd call it a miscommunication, because in my mind, Lux is following me. He started working toward the mid lane, then got jumped by Zac. But overall, it was worth it, because he used his Ignite on me instead of Lux. I'm pretty sure you do need Ignite to kill her, because if you kill me in the jungle you won't get any farm, just gold. But if you kill a laner, you can get farm and plates. So I think he just wasted his Ignite. But thankfully, with this Caitlyn, it feels like, at this point, she's just, I don't know, a stress pillow. Whenever I make a bad play, I go to Caitlyn and kill her to fix my mental issues. But still, at this point, we should play toward winning mid-game. And to make it very clear, whenever you think about the mid-game, you should think about the mid lane. Because if you manage to take the mid-tower, the game will open up for you. The wave will always push toward the second tier, and if you are struggling with placing wards in the jungle, just take the towers in the mid lane. This will force the enemy to always show themselves, and you will get vision indirectly by taking towers. Regarding the build and rune setups, we're going with the Grasp of the Undying Volibear build. Just a reminder, I don't max Q, I max W. And I don't play for the early game, I play for mid and late game. Most importantly, this build relies on the fact that you are mentally unshakable, untouchable. No matter what. No matter what your allies do, you play for your 3 core items. And by the end of the mid game, you should be ready to become unstoppable. If I wanted to play for the early game, I could have gone with the Stridebreaker build, or simply with the Cosmic Drive into Frozen Gauntlet. That's like the standard build for early to mid-game carry. It falls off in the late game, but it's a fine build. Now, we're starting to see the results of the camp. Let me explain why you should camp someone and why you shouldn't. If you ever ask yourself, if I camp this player, will they be able to carry themselves for the rest of the game after, say, 15 minutes? For example, with Jax, after 15 minutes, he'll be unstoppable. So camp him. If the answer is yes, camp that guy. Let's look at the opposite. If I camp Lux in this game, will she be unstoppable? Probably not. Don't camp that player. If I camp bot side, will they carry? Against Lulu and Xayah, who are both really hard to gank, probably not worth it. Don't camp those guys either. If there's no one worth camping, just focus on full clearing and gank only when it's safe. That's the thought process that happened in this game. Thankfully, Lux came to help because lately, I've noticed that many players don't assist with objectives, especially with Drake and Herald. These objectives have a lot of HP, take a lot of time, and some people assume that since I'm the jungler, I should solo them. But I have other responsibilities too. I can gank, split push, and do much more. It's not entirely on me. Soloing an objective puts me at huge risk. If I fail, the enemy can take the objective and I end up dead, giving them extra gold for free. Luckily, the mid laner was aware and came to help. By doing so, I ensured he stayed alive with the resources I could provide at the moment. In this particular game, Jax randomly switched from top lane to jungling, started ganking for some unknown reason. So instead of typing or flaming, I just took the farm. After 14 minutes, turret plates fall, so all the top lane farm became mine, which helped me secure my items much faster. I've found that it's always worth using your ultimate as Volibear on the Rift Herald. It extends the Herald's life, allowing you to possibly get even 3 crashes if there's someone helping you. Here's how. You summon the Herald, stop the turret from attacking with your ult and finish that tower, and tank the next few shots of the upcoming one. If you're playing tank Volibear, you can absorb all damage with no worries while the Herald crashes into the turret. You'll lose some HP, but the Herald will remain intact. A lot of players don't realize how powerful the Herald is, especially if you use it strategically. It can even crash into the inhibitor turret, and if left alone, it will keep pushing and farming for you. So yeah, it's always worth keeping the Herald alive for as long as possible. So, going back to what I mentioned earlier about this build, it's particularly strong by the end of the mid-game for 2 main reasons. First, there aren't many effective counters to the shield, aside from a few specific champions and 1 suboptimal item. Second, this build transforms Volibear into a completely different champion, as if it were designed specifically for him. It gives you ample time for your second bite, and you also get a shield on top of your original shield. I've found that Frozen Heart is much more effective than the other items you might consider for survivability. While you need 5 seconds to heal with something like Despair, Frozen Heart reduces the enemy's auto-attack speed during that whole duration, meaning you take less damage overall. Plus, its mana boost enhances the value of your shield. Spirit Visage is a no-brainer for this build, so these 3 core items essentially turn Volibear into an upgraded version of himself. In other words, this is the embodiment of "this is not my final form" moment. At this point in the game, for the enemy team to kill me, I'd need to either disconnect or refrain from using my abilities to give them a chance. Remember, we reached this stage due to an early game assumption that we followed too rigidly, focusing solely on the range matchup abuser than ourselves. Despite everything that's happened, this build reinforces the idea that it's okay to die because eventually, we'll become unkillable. Early deaths won't change much, even if the enemy team secures more buffs and drakes. Once we reach our key items, we'll definitely have a fighting chance. Of course, I'm not saying this build is an auto-win. You could lose many games with it, especially against champions like Rel, Renekton, or Blitzcrank, who can negate shields entirely. If they have an assassin, they could use Serpent's Fang to reduce your shields by 50%. So yes, there's counterplay against this build. However, for ranks up to Master, I've rarely seen anyone discuss it on YouTube, except for the Bows, who included Serpent's Fang in his core build for Scion AD. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, whenever the enemy team picks a ranged matchup, I'll be camping that player, even if it costs us the game, just out of principle. That wraps up today's video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment, and until next time, take care everyone and peace.